No, it's the county permit.
Hi. Good, how are you?
All right, we are
Looks
live.
looks like you've been a little busy at your house. I saw pictures.
Yeah, I'm busy right now.
Are they all still here?
No.
Oh, okay. We good to go?
We're good.
Okay, it is 6:30. I will call this meeting to order. Jay DeCoo is not here this evening, so I will be acting mayor on his behalf. We have all other counselors here except Jay, Administrator Roth, Finance Director Dunsmore, and I want to say marketing? Communications Manager. All of a sudden I'm Patrick Knight are here, and City Attorney Chris Hood is available, as well as a few others here in chamber, which is nice to see, and through the Zoom session.
Do I get one
Oh,
of those?
we get a name?
Okay.
We get a
Not
name
today.
tag.
Oh.
Wow.
You can stop looking now, Craig.
I don't.
I'll take one. Probably Tim's.
We will move into the open forum. Is there anyone here who has anything for open forum?
I do.
Come on up.
Yay.
Please sit in the chair. State your name.
Rebecca Thompson. All right, so this is a long-going issue. This has been going on for a long time. Wrote a letter to hopefully cover bases quickly, easily. So anyway, so dear council, this is Wednesday 4th, 2021. My name is Rebecca Thompson. I am here as a very concerned, long-time tax-paying resident to address the absolute horrific traffic issues on our residential streets. It's just insane. Okay, I reside at 2nd Avenue West. As we locals know it, it's the Library Street. This street is a major artery from the school to downtown, buzzing with children of all ages year-round. It has become more than apparent that our summer population has expanded. The lack of driver's awareness is completely terrifying, and that is also local atrocities too. I mean, the locals also drive pretty bad also. Through the years, I have made numerous complaints to the law enforcement center. I have discussed this issue with various members of the community. Yesterday was enough. Yesterday, my son literally for the 10th time this week almost got T-boned. And I admit it, I flipped out. I'll own it. I apologize for being rude to the council. I don't apologize for being outspoken because it finally got people's attention in this community. Just this season alone, I personally have been near missed more times than I can count. Being T-boned, rear-ended, sideswiped, ran over, being flipped off by people, screamed at, yelled at for actually coming to stop at the stop sign, looking both ways. I've had people go around me on both sides with oncoming traffic coming down the southbound roads. So there's too many of these things happening every day, and it's not just to me, it's to everybody. So anyway, so per my discussion with Sheriff Eliason yesterday, he is at a standstill with what his office can do within the city limits. They literally can have a sheriff deputy park, do some watching. If they see somebody doing a traffic violation, they can pull them over, issue a warning or a ticket. And that's really all they can do at this time. And he put it on the city. Okay, so I did call and I did vent very boisterously and badly, I'm sorry, about this issue. So then I talked with Craig also about this, and it was my understanding from what Craig told me that it is a state issue. So my question is the residential a state issue? Is it a city issue? As far as addressing the traffic signs and how we are going to get people to slow down and pay attention. So anyway, so then, speaking with other people, I was told, that it's not the city's responsibility for how people drive. And yes, that is correct. None of us are responsible for anybody else's poor driving habits. But the city is responsible for our safety. And, and that's, I guess, where we're at, is what can we do to make it safer? So with that being said, I would like to see some drastic improvements to signage at the intersections on all of 2nd Street, from Broadway to the Old Gunflint Trail by the courthouse. These are suggestions that I and various community members have come up with. One are two-way stop signs, posted, underneath the actual stop sign itself. They cost $11.95 a sign, and you can get them at myparkingsign.com. Two would be the green alert signs. They're like those folder board things. On every corner, east to west. They're a little more spendy. They're $32.99 at Ace Hardware. Three would be caution, two-way traffic ahead. They're rectangular, they're engineer grade. Their cost is $17.96 per sign. You can find them at roadtrafficsigns.com. Now, this is one I get a laugh at, speed bumps. But almost every single person I mention this to thinks it's a really good idea. They can go up at the beginning of the season, come down at the end. They only have to go east to west because our north-south streets are thorough streets. They're not cheap, and they're not. They can go anywhere from 4 inches to 8 inch wide, from a cost of $110 to $133 each. Or on Amazon, you can get a 4-pack roughly for $75. The fifth thing, stop sign installed in the middle of the road. So, you have, the traffic, whatever, it's right there. So people have to see it. They can't miss it. And that's another one of those things. They go in the spring, they come out in the fall. And then the sixth one, which is probably the most easiest one and the fastest one to address, is clearing all the shrub from line of sight. Starting with that beautiful little flowering crab that is on the corner of the North Shore building. You cannot see at all. No one can see. You come to a stop, you have to literally pull all the way out to the intersection to get a clear line of sight. So those are just some of the suggestions that I've come up with, and talking with other people in the neighborhood, in the community. This is a safety issue for all who live and play here, including our tourists. We don't want to see them get hurt either. So someone is going to be seriously hurt or killed. It's a given. And I don't want to be that person that is hurt. I don't want to be the person that has to go out of my house with a blanket and cover up one of my friend's kids who is bleeding to death. It's really getting quite scary. It really is. So anyway, in conclusion, I really hope that you take this to heart, and I thank you for listening, and I sincerely thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you. All right, thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for offering up suggestions.
And I will gladly let you guys have this.
I wrote them down.
Okay. No problem.
I don't know that we can accomplish any. We could accomplish all, but I always feel that when people bring problems forth, bring some solutions. So I appreciate what you had to say. And as we do our strategic planning now and meet again and talk about capital improvements, this is a place where things can be addressed.
Oh, and I really do appreciate it. Because it's not a huge thing. Colton, were you going to speak at all?
Yeah.
Okay, because he did some number crunching real quick, and he's got a couple ideas too. So.
Can I ask one quick question, even though it's usually not back and forth, but can I, so you're saying, I just want to make sure, because I used to live on First Avenue West, and that, definitely, holy buckets, you
Yeah.
can't, people are go fast, But are you saying like, so people aren't, when they're crossing the avenues going east to west, they're not stopping?
Oh, they're not stopping
Okay,
at all.
okay,
I mean,
that's
they literally are just,
right through, okay.
oh,
That's,
Yeah.
it's just.
I
it's
wasn't-
like,
yeah,
oh my
that's-
God.
I got video,
And now we have-
actually have multiple videos of like evidence and proof of
people just rolling through,
not
okay,
hating on anybody, not discriminating for anything, on any reason, just
yeah, okay, that's,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Colton, did you want
Yeah,
to
sure.
address in the open forum too? State your name, please, for record.
Hi, my name's Colton Thompson. I don't know if any of you know me, but I know a few of you. I guess line of sight is a good thing at intersections. Kids are 12, they're on bikes, they need to watch out, but you know, we're all adults here. People are 50 years old, you should know how to drive a car. If I have to see Bob get hit on his Segway by some tourist and just creamed and pancaked, it's not going to be a very good time. That's going to suck. Something needs to be done, it needs to be done now. We could outfit every single intersection from Broadway down to the library over to the Gunflint for $2,000, $2,500. You could get like 10 intersections out of the deal. You could do the speed bumps, or I'd go and get the license signs and put the signs up. It's like the stop signs at the Gunflint. I know they serve their purpose, I just kind of can't wrap my head around why, but the things in town need to be addressed. There's I don't know who to talk to, but there's a road closed sign going down to the library, and I think that makes people think the road's closed. So there's no traffic. You know, it's a three-way, it's not a four-way. So I think personally, if that sign was taken down and moved out of there, that would help a lot, along with a bunch of those other signs around town, because people don't. There's more people, the detours on Second going by the courthouse, and there's more people coming up by the library, flying around. I've seen 5 different cars with different out-of-state plates in 30 seconds, almost all hit each other. So I think that could be quickly and easily resolved too. Whoever that, I don't want to touch the signs, you know, but talk to whoever that is. I'd happily go around, volunteer my time, move those. I think that'll help clean around the stop signs, do something, because I don't want to see a kid, a community member, get hurt or tourist, and yeah. So, thank you for your time, and myself and a lot of other people volunteer. We could set up a GoFundMe. We could, as long as we got the legal jurisdiction, we're willing to make this happen. Miss Nelson, she was out there for the 4th of July parade, or the graduation parade. No route was planned, and Miss Nelson was actually out in the middle of the intersection flagging tourists away. Some other lady took her lawn chair out in her Cook County sweatshirt and sat right in the middle of the road, and we brought some cones out and we blocked the whole intersection off, and people were ramming on the curb trying to get around us, harassing us. And like, I just think there could be a lot more addressed in a lot shorter of amount of time between everyone, not just you guys here that run, but between all of us as a community, because that's what we all need, is to take care of each other and make sure we're all safe. So if there's any way that you guys need any help doing that, I can coordinate it. I already got it coordinated, but this needs to happen now, not in a week, not in a month. So, thank you again for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks.
And the counselors have anything for open forum? Any letters they've received, information to share?
I got an email, an exchange of emails about engine braking again, and the noise ordinance. But I can talk about that too at the end if we want.
Okay.
Just at one point I talked to Mike about it a little bit too, and did a little more digging on our existing ordinance from '04, I think it was, and the wording in it and whatnot. But I did get an email and about that, but I can talk about that later.
If there's nothing else, we'll close open forum. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, the usual 3 items are here to approve the agenda, approve the minutes of the last meeting, and the payment of bills listed. I did notice one small error in the minutes for June 17th. We opened the meeting at 9 a.m. It says we closed the meeting at 10:09 p.m. It should be a.m., please. If anyone has any other changes, needs to pull something for discussion, otherwise I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would so move.
Michael moves. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Anton second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that passes. All right, next we move on to the Lions Club Fisherman's Picnic Check-In. Bob Spry is here for the Lions to tell us what is happening in a few weeks.
Hopefully, yes, it is. I want to ask a question about Mike before I start into my spiel, and that is, I counted the porta potties in town, just in the downtown area,
What'd you come up with?
11. But there's 4 of them down at in front of the Coast Guard station on the other side, on the south side. And so that leaves, if that leaves 7 more in downtown, and that's what you had for the fishermen for the 4th of July, I believe, and you didn't have any problems with them. People complaining about not enough toilets downtown?
Not
So-
sure where you're going with this, Bob.
Well, my proposal to Pete is gonna be 6 by Blue Water, where we always put them, 2 down at the end by the Java Moose, and 2 more out here, so that we got extra in this area. And that's what I'm gonna propose to Pete. Now, I don't know where the 31 porta potties in the 2019 came from, but that bill's just getting too far out of hand, $5,000 for porta potties for 4 days. So, this is what I'm gonna propose to Pete. I'm not sure what he's gonna say. But I'm gonna talk to him.
Are you asking for our permission,
Nope.
support,
Nope,
payment?
just wanted to cover to make sure
Okay.
that I understood the situation. Okay, so Fisherman's Picnic, a couple of weeks away. If things are moving ahead, we made a few changes this year. We're not having any outside vendors unless they contact somebody who has private property who's willing to put them on that. We can't do that, but anything that we're responsible for, we're not having any outside vendors. And what else was going to be changed? Well, and we're not having the blow-up rides, or the blow-up kid
No,
things,
no kid rides?
no kids ride. We are doing the stuff over in the senior citizen parking area. We are doing those. That's kiddie rides, not the blow-up. So that's basically the major change. Now, when I was coming through today, it looks like the blacktop and the curbing is pretty much done to 3rd Avenue West, if not through it. I don't know if it's through it or not, but they've got 3 layers, if I'm not mistaken, from Holiday to just before 3rd Avenue West. I don't know if they got any farther than that.
I haven't seen it, other than last night I saw it was going on, but I didn't think it was going past 3rd Avenue West.
It's not going past.
Not right now,
Into
but
that
I think
intersection.
when they get around to the point where, I shouldn't even talk, I don't know what I'm talking about. So how's that sound? It seems to me what they're gonna do is, what I had heard someplace, they're gonna put a stoplight on each end of from 3rd to 8th.
Broadway? Oh, to
To
8th.
8th. And then they'll start moving it down I think they're gonna blacktop that one side, maybe I'm wrong.
The lakeside, I think.
Yeah, I don't know why they would have put the curbing in right now if they weren't gonna blacktop that side. So then the traffic would just everything would come straight through town there. And you can turn off at wherever you want to turn off, but that's what I think they're gonna do. So I think we're in good shape for use of the downtown area during the Fisherman's Picnic.
Is there a parade, Bob? I guess
There
I didn't
is,
look.
we have plans for a parade.
Okay.
It's in the flyer that we just put out. We're gonna do most of the things we're gonna try to do are the simple things, the minnow race, the log sawing contest. 2 times we're gonna run the tractor pull. And we're gonna do rock skipping, we're gonna do the loon calling contest, we're gonna have people in the park singing. the usual.
Live
So
entertainment.
we're trying to make it as close to being a normal one as we can without bringing in the outside vendors. Other than that, I don't really, unless you have questions, I don't have a lot more that I can tell you about it. We sent off the thing yesterday because they said if we didn't get it to the printer yesterday, we weren't gonna have the brochures by the Fisherman's Picnic time, so it went out yesterday. So,
Raffle.
raffle,
There's a raffle.
yes, and we had a little problem with only one location. I take full blame for that, it was my fault. I didn't explain good
we
enough to
fixed
the
it.
gal I give it to.
Yeah, we got it fixed.
Okay, well, I think you still got some that have paid $10,
I-
but I was gonna stop and talk to you when he
Yeah.
sees. Anyway, yeah, the raffle's on, parade's on.
I have a question though. I'm concerned about who controls the outside vendors if they set up on city property.
We do.
You do, the city does?
Well,
For the launch.
for the Lions
Okay, so in the
Club,
Lions Club, when we closed down Wisconsin Street for the Lions Club event, any outside vendor that comes in is controlled by the Lions Club then?
yep, we,
Unless they set up somewhere outside of the area on private land?
right.
That's been the understanding, but that's up to you to allow that.
Okay.
That's what we've done.
Well, my only concern is, when we have an event, even the art fair, for example, they didn't have food and that kind of thing, but it was a complaint that I hear constantly inside my store, is not enough places to eat in Grand Marais right now, and it's, when we bring in more people, we're just creating more of a issue, a negative issue that is associated to that.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying what's right or wrong, or what you should do or not do. I just know that it's been a number one complaint all summer long.
We're trying to get some of the local food trucks, the two that are sitting over there, but they're on private property, so we don't control those.
And you're gonna have the fish burger stand?
The fish burger stand will be open,
Okay.
and, so I don't know,
I just,
I'm not sure what the Blue Water's time's gonna be during the Fisherman's Picnic, if they're gonna try getting more people and running it longer than, till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't
well,
know.
that's, yeah.
Well, and the outside vendors, was that due to COVID stuff and trying to?
Yeah, we made that decision while we were still kind
Yeah.
of under the COVID. We
Right.
just decided we weren't gonna do it. We're actually getting pretty low on lions. We've lost a lot of them over the last 25, 30 years. It's probably my fault. That's about the time I came on, chased them all away.
Play the long game.
I think some of them have moved on to greener pastures.
Well, yeah, lots of them. We have a couple who can be fairly cantankerous, but they've been better this last couple of weeks, so.
Okay.
But I think it's, hopefully it's gonna go.
And I'm assuming now bingo is,
Well, they're still working on that, but it didn't get in our brochure. That somebody said that, well, Dave Turstake said that Julie Joins in Carlson came and talked to him about the possibility of using Boulder Park. And David had said that would be a good idea, and he's actually circled it on our thing when I made the application for use of the parks.
okay.
So I don't know
Okay.
if they're gonna have those or not. At one time, Dairy Queen said that they'd like to have it out in front of their place since they're not gonna have the
Open on the harbor?
pool. The kids in the log rolling contest.
Oh, log rolling, yeah.
Not gonna have that apparently this year, so. But I don't know, that's up in the air, and again, that's not anything to do with the Lions Club, but, because we don't
Right. That's
give
the
them any
Legion.
money, they don't give us any money, so they're
Right.
pretty much in charge of that.
Okay.
Anything else?
Anything else we need to talk about as far as like street closure stuff, or is it just like because it's the 85th or whatever?
Well,
this is, we,
92nd.
okay.
Yeah, should we say it out
That's
loud
pretty
just to
good
make
guess.
sure we all understand what they're asking for? They're asking
Well-
for all Wisconsin to be closed except the intersection on Broadway. They're asking for First Avenue West and Second Avenue West south of the highway to be closed. That's the standard
Yeah,
pattern for a while now.
yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it sounds like there's gonna be a lot less stuff. I expect the highway to be open very, very soon.
Yeah,
But just the traffic part, they're still be under construction. And I don't know about the sidewalks and such, so it's still gonna be a little tricky, but.
People
at least
are
the
walking
cars-
through it today and last week and
Yeah.
a month beforehand, so I would anticipate they'll still be walking through it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Who's liable if somebody trips and breaks their leg?
they are.
You know, Colton, that's figured out in the court, not for us.
Big headache for everybody involved.
I don't understand people, but that's okay. Not everybody thinks like me, which is probably a very good thing. Well, we wish you luck.
Yeah.
We're
Thank you.
excited to have
Thanks so
it
much,
back.
Bob.
And we'll see you in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bob.
Bob.
Down,
Thank you guys
I
for coming
think,
through.
Pittsburgh.
Oh, you bet. We'll be there.
Fevers down, we'll be busy.
Yes. Next on the list, request to purchase city lot. Mr. Tim Kennedy is here to speak to us, and there is
Well.
information in our packets as well.
Yes, so I hope you've read the information. It's pretty straightforward request. I'd like the city to consider making that parcel of land that I've indicated on the map that you have available for development to buy, and I'm working to try to reestablish a full-service bike shop in Grand Marais. I think it's, a needed type of business. Talked to Jay about this, so he's in the loop. He can't do that, but, he has an interest in seeing and helping to see if something can be done. I know there's a process to sell public lands, and, what I'm asking tonight is the city to begin that process so that if I can buy that property, I would be able to start working on plans for development of it, put it on the tax rolls, employ some people, do the things that a bike shop does.
Do you think you're going to find employees before you would start building anything?
Well, yeah, at this point, how that's going to work, isn't, 100% clear.
Right.
I've talked to some individuals that have had an interest in working or being part of a bike shop operation, and how much that gels is going to be part of the conversation. But securing the property is the first part of it, and working on plans for development of a building specifically designed for bike shop needs. That's the next step. If ideally it would be nice to have a facility open by next season. I don't know if that's just being optimistic, but nice to have goals.
Yes.
Counselors, did you understand by the map the piece of property that's being indicated by Tim then and where?
Yep.
Okay. I had to confirm with Mike to make sure I was reading it right.
West of the approach going into the,
Yes, west of the driveway
Yep.
going into our new Public Works building.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are there questions any of you had for Tim?
Do we know, I suppose there's a process, you know the process, or you might know the process, and Chris for sure knows the process of like how all this would work potentially on it. The issue is more so like whether there's support amongst us with the proposition of looking at it.
That's the question for tonight,
Yeah.
is should we even look at this? Are you interested in this idea enough for us to put the process together? I mean, there's no need to make any decisions about selling or not selling tonight.
Yeah.
But you do need to tell me you're interested in at least thinking about selling, and then we'll figure out what our options are.
Yeah.
And I think we'll have options that you'll have to consider Like, do you want to list it for sale? Do you want to offer it for bids? Do you want to negotiate a price? There'll be a public hearing requirement. We'll work with Chris to make sure we get it all covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I guess to that then, I mean, I'd say that the intention when we bought the Tom Tabota property for the expansion, or not, for the build of the new part, or
Public
the
Works.
new Public Works facility. You weren't here. Were you here?
Mm-mm.
You weren't here.
Sorry, Anton. It's
You're it, Anton. It's got to be your memory.
No, yeah, well, what I think part of the point of that is of not putting that up where the hotel was, but on
Right.
those back, because there is
Highway frontage.
potentially viable commercial property.
Yeah.
And I know that even a couple meetings ago when we were talking dog pound stuff, throwing out that spot up there, and even at that point, it's like, well, this is, that would be if we
Prime.
added one more thing onto it, it's like, there's another pretty nice piece of commercial highway frontage, especially in this with the new bike trail going out. I mean, this kind of opportunity seems like kind of the fit, I guess, to like what I feel like our intention was, because we caught a lot of flack, I think, about buying the Tom Tabota, taking it off of the property tax rolls at that point. But, it's 125 by 250. It's not tiny, but it's also not huge. So it'd take just the right type of, operation to be able to fit into that. And then we still have everything across the other side to the east of the access back in.
Yeah.
So I don't, personally, I think, whatever the process is, I can't speak to how that works, and that's not, I guess, our job, but I think it's, I think it's what we intended to do with the frontage property on that.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
Yeah.
also, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So,
My only question, and you already brought it up, my only thought was we had talked about if the new dog pound animal facility would not go up into the EDA, we had talked about this spot. We had a hard time identifying any places where it might fit. This was one that kind of did, so I was curious in wanting to make sure that if that doesn't work there, which I don't know if we know that right now exactly or not, that we have some place to put that. And this was talked about. Obviously, an opportunity to potentially put this back on the tax rolls would be a very good thing for the city overall. Just wanting to make sure that we had kind of talked about this is our backup plan. And what do we do if the dog pound, I don't like to really call it that, but did not fit or did not make the grade to go to the EDA. I know we are moving forward with that in that direction. Again, maybe some of those things would be settled before we ever got to the point where we're putting property on the market, potentially.
yeah, I think those paths can coexist for now.
Yeah.
We're still working on trying to put it in the business park, and we can start the process of looking at selling this piece of property. And before we have to make a choice, we'll know a lot more about the business park. We're right now gathering quotes to do the stormwater work that would be required to locate in the business park. And I think the only reason we would decide not to place it there at this point is budget. And, because we wouldn't have to do a stormwater plan to put it on this piece of property.
Right.
Which is why this piece of property is probably more valuable than a business park lot. It's got a lovely building pad right there. It's really quite suitable for commercial use. But if it's our only location for the pound, that's what we decide. I think we'll know that in the next month or two.
Other questions from counselors, comments?
No, I think in terms of just thinking about it, yeah, I mean, seems like a good proposition, and we should take that first step and see where that leads. Because as Mike pointed out, these things can coexist and go along for a little bit yet, and we'll know more.
Right.
I'd like to get that information.
Craig?
No, at this point, I just listened to the path that we have to go down to sell it. Somebody suggests that they want to buy it like Tim, but then we have to get it appraised, obviously. What's the process we're going to use to sell it? Are we, I've seen some land that the city gets sold before that wasn't put out on bid, that wasn't maybe, I don't know if it was even appraised or not, but it didn't work out too well for anybody. So, I mean, I'm just,
Well, and I think we have some opportunities, obviously. Attorney Hood is here tonight with us. I'm sure that their guidance would be extremely strong in
because
this
there's going to be
area.
people questioning,
Right, right. But we have to,
public lands getting
some-
sold.
somebody brought something up, we have to address it
Right,
somehow.
correct, yeah,
So-
I'm not against that. I think we can move
Right.
forward with if we just need a vote to move forward with looking into the process that it's gonna take to do this, then I think I'm for that.
I think I'd
And-
settle for 4 nodding heads is probably enough.
Yeah, right.
And to be clear, I'm not asking you to make a decision on selling the parcel
Right.
to me. I'm asking to begin the process.
Right.
Whichever process you think
Right.
is necessary to make that land available.
Yep, I understand.
I'm interested, and,
Okay.
others, there may be other interests out there. I don't know that there are, but, I think you have a responsibility to
Right.
to do what the process requires, and
Yeah.
I'm asking you to begin that process.
Yeah.
And it looks, I mean, all of us seem to be in favor of that. I think we've determined, looking at this and potential for the dog pound to be there can coexist. So it sounds like we can move forward with that step in looking at the process and what this looks like for us as a city.
All right.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Yes.
Thanks,
Yep.
Tim.
And is time of the essence? Construction season is going to end.
Well, I
it'd
don't know.
Be nice if this could get resolved before, too late in the fall, so that construction, these starts of construction could begin. Still,
Prices could also drop by the time we make decisions, right?
or go up.
Or go up. No, it
Yeah.
can't go up anymore.
Lots of things could happen, so.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Interesting to be back here on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Hope it went well.
Tobacco 21 presentation? I don't have anything in this. Who is addressing this with us?
We have a whole crowd up here.
There's a whole crowd. They're all
Here they
here
are.
for this?
And the presentation that was in the packet is going to be on the screen,
On
I
the
imagine.
screen.
Okay.
Who is wanting to take the lead? Oh, Andrea, you're on mute, I think.
Looks like she's looking for the window.
How about that?
Hey.
There we go.
There we go.
The headset, I don't know. So, hi, everyone, counselors. I am Andrea Orest, the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership Coordinator for Cook County. And I'm here with Hartley Newell Acero, the Outreach Coordinator at Sawtooth Mountain Clinic, and Taylor Blakeman from the Duluth Area American Lung Association. And we are going to provide some information on the T21 law that the state of Minnesota passed, and then talk about how we could hopefully help the city bring their tobacco ordinance in line with those updated language in the state law. So Taylor's going to do the presentation, and then whatever questions you might have throughout the presentation, you just ask or after, and one of the three of us will do our best to answer them.
I'm going actually just turn off my camera and try and get the presentation going just so that I can focus on the information today, but I'll be turning my camera back on for questions. Thank you.
Can we make it any louder, Patrick?
I can turn the TV up, but Taylor, if you could speak up a little bit or turn up your microphone, that'd be helpful. I don't know Taylor, I don't know if we can hear you if you're speaking or not right now. Or if you are speaking, we can't hear you.
Okay.
There you
Can
go.
hear me now? Okay.
Yep.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
There it is.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. So as Andrea just said, my name is Taylor Blakeman. I'm with the American Lung Association, and I generally serve the Northeast Minnesota region and work on tobacco strategies through the statewide Health Improvement Partnership. I just wanted to quick thank the council for your time and consideration as we go through some of this information today. And again, I'm more than happy to take questions at any time. So here's a list of some information that I'll be going over. I'm going to start with kind of the who, what, and why of Tobacco 21, just to give a recap of what it is and why it started. Federal and state Tobacco 21 laws, Cook County's tobacco ordinance, an outline of changes in Minnesota state law, underage pup purchase, use, and possession penalties. And then again, our hope is that given this information, you'll consider updating Grand Marais language to state law. Before I start, I just wanted to say that in this conversation, when I reference tobacco, I will be talking about commercialized tobacco. At the American Lung Association, we recognize that sacred tobacco or traditional tobacco is often used for religious ceremonies or medicinal purposes in indigenous cultures. And it's really important that we distinguish these before we start. Here's some examples of commercial tobacco products. This includes cigarettes, cigars, hookah, smokeless or spit tobacco, e-liquids, electronic devices, and vape devices. So I believe Tobacco 21 has been talked about on this council before, but I thought it would be good for context to take a short time to recap the why of this policy change in Minnesota and Cook County, and now kind of on all of these different levels. Tobacco 21 started as a local policy initiative to raise the minimum legal sales age of tobacco products from 18 to 21. And again, this was prompted for a variety of reasons. Number one being that there was a lot of movement from the community to effectively address tobacco use in kids. There was a time at the American Lung Association where we were getting several phone calls from concerned parents, school staff, and others who would tell us about their stories of kids ODing on nicotine, kids getting sick, or in some cases being hospitalized from vape devices. And teachers who didn't even know what to do if they found someone with a vape, or how do they even recognize if a kid is vaping at this point. There were so many concerns about what we refer to as the youth vaping epidemic, and communities were really desperate for solutions. Tobacco 21 is a policy option for communities to reduce youth vaping use, and it was shown that this policy would help to reduce youth tobacco initiation by an average of 25% in 15 to 17-year-olds. So this option became really popular and communities were taking action. Over 80 communities had passed Tobacco 21 before the federal or state had decided to pass this. There was a lot of community momentum on this issue all around the state. One of those communities was Cook County. Cook County had passed their Tobacco 21 policy in December of 2019. If you take a look at the map, you can see that Cook County certainly wasn't alone in this. There were several other northeast Minnesota communities that had done the same. The second reason Tobacco 21 was becoming popular was that youth tobacco use was starting to rise for the first time in a very long time. If you look at the chart on the slide, you'll see that around 2014 is when this number started to increase. And this was also around the same time that Juul products and other electronic cigarettes or vape devices started to really be used by youth. And just for reference, e-cigarettes are devices that resemble cigarettes, cigars, or pipes that are designed to deliver nicotine or other related substances to users in the form of a vape. Over the last several years, these products have really become, again, like I mentioned, they've been really popular. And this is mostly thanks to marketing claims that say, hey, these are safer than cigarettes, or these are less hazardous alternatives to cigarettes. And in other cases, these are cheaper than your average tobacco product. So again, these were becoming really popular. And one of the bigger health concerns around these products is just the sheer high concentrations of nicotine that were being found in some of these. In one Juul pod alone, there's as much as almost 2 packs worth of cigarettes worth of nicotine. This is extremely high and also a big reason why we're starting to see some 2020 data showing us that kids are likely to be long-term users of these products. So these are just some examples of newer products, and especially ones that are noteworthy or that I see often in this area. And the bottom line is that nicotine is harmful to the developing brain, and especially when we think about youth or young adults, their brains aren't finished developing until the age of 25 years old. It can cause difficulty in concentration, behavior problems, memory challenges, and again, there's always that concern of future addictions to other substances. So you can see how this would be of concern with schools and trying to remain student focused in the classroom. And in particular, one kind of noteworthy health effect of nicotine is that youth and young adults, they're really attracted to the flavors in these products. And the very nature of the vapor makes it really smooth for e-liquids and the nicotine to be inhaled into the lungs. So if you think of a normal combustible pack of cigarettes, if you were to try and smoke a whole pack of cigarettes, that would be really difficult, right? It would be an irritant to the lungs, it would be coughing, and you'd probably smell really bad afterwards. But with e-cigarettes, it's very easy to put down these really high concentrations of nicotine. And so this would lead to what we call nic sick, where people can become dizzy or throw up or pass out. And in some extreme cases can be hospitalized. So these are just an example of some other products and how much cigarettes worth of nicotine are in some of these. Some other health risks of vaping are that these devices have been known to explode, which is why you can't bring them onto airplanes. Many people think that they're just water vapor, but we know that there's chemicals and some heavy metal particulates that can make this really questionable to be putting into your lungs. Again, concerns about addiction, just the addictive properties of nicotine and the likelihood that youth are addicted to substances later on. And there's simply still just so much that's still unknown. Pre-pandemic, there were some cases of what's called EVALI. EVALI is an acronym for e-cigarette and vaping associated lung injury. In these cases, again, many people were being hospitalized and people couldn't really figure out why that is. We have some guesses as to it could be THC products, but we still, there's a lot that's unknown about this. So not only are these products unsafe and unhealthy, but another problem is that they are really easy for youth to hide. So you can see here on the left-hand side, there's a vape device watch. On the right-hand side, there's a person vaping through hoodie strings. You can also see how these products could fit in a pencil box or a backpack. These were really, again, concerns that the community was having around this. And especially too, as I think about schools coming back in person this year, I think this is going to be a recurrent issue. So the last topic I want to cover on this is the marketing of these products. The industry was really effective in attracting youth by using flavors that are similar to candy or snacks. You can see that there's these bright colors that they use, and they put young people into advertisements. This quote is from the tobacco industry. Today's teenagers, tomorrow's potential regular customer, and the overwhelming majority of smokers first begin to smoke while still in their teens. They have been known to advertise on social media, like TikTok or Instagram or YouTube. And especially with the pandemic, I think this has probably increased over the last year or so. So from 2016 to 2019, we were seeing a steep increase in vaping rates among youth in Minnesota. About 1 in 4 11th graders were using these products. And this data is really just to show why communities were more frequently taking action to address this issue during this time period. So where are we now? What has happened with youth addiction to these products? We're starting to see data that the numbers of youth initiation are starting to go down, which is great news and suggests that these tobacco initiatives are effective strategies. But you can also see that there's certainly more room for work that could be done, as there's still higher than 1/3 of high schoolers in Minnesota who are initiating tobacco products. Locally, we're seeing in 2019 Minnesota student survey data, we're seeing that in Cook County, 36% of Cook County youth vaped in the last 30 days, and about 40% of Cook County youth have tried a vape device. I just want to put a disclaimer that this data was taken before any T21 policies had gone through, but this is what we were seeing around the time that Cook County had passed their policy. So because of all of this community concern that I covered and the local data that I just showed, Cook County passed Tobacco 21 in November of 2019. And when a city or county decides to update their tobacco language, there's a menu of options that you can choose from. Besides the age raise. So the age raise and some other details there are sort of the base of it. And then there's, again, sort of this menu of options that you could choose to do just based on what makes the most sense for your community. So Cook County adopted a coupon restriction, and they also included that retailers must be located 1,000 feet from youth-oriented facilities. So the reasoning behind the coupons are that we know when tobacco prices are higher, obviously people are less likely to want to purchase or to want to use those, right? So with coupons, when they make these products cheaper, especially among youth, it makes it a lot easier for them to purchase these products. And then of course the retailer location is a little bit more straightforward in that there's certainly that distance barrier. And they're also exposed to less of those advertisements and again, promotional discounts, things like that. And then I just wanted to note that within this language too, they do have within their tobacco language, they distinguish the use of sacred tobacco use from commercial tobacco use, which is really important. So if you want to know more about that, you can certainly take a look at Cook County's tobacco ordinance language, and that's in your packet. Shortly after this local policy change, we did start to see action from the federal level. Federal Tobacco 21 was passed in December of 2019, again, very shortly after Cook County. And the age raise was effective in all cities, counties, states, etc. It was effective everywhere. And I think at first this was kind of confusing because retailers were still enforcing, in some cases, the 18 age, right? And so this was a great step to reduce youth tobacco use. But they were definitely missing some important ingredients, including that they didn't alert public health ahead of time. So some officials were really trying to figure out what that meant for enforcement. The federal wasn't planning to start enforcement for at least 6 months, again with that retailer confusion. And in some cases, local cities and counties stopped passing local ordinances or were simply crossing off 18 and putting in 21. Which also isn't really effective because it wouldn't really make that difference since 21 was everywhere. And then last, it raised the age, but it didn't address fines for retailers, compliance checks, youth penalties, or any other enforcement options. And so shortly after, the good news is that Minnesota did pass Tobacco 21 in the spring of 2020, and it was implemented in August. So there were some 4 key changes to state law. Number 1 being that compliance checks, the age changed from 15 to 17 to 17 to 20. It completely removed penalties and instead encouraged the enforcement of non-monetary, non-criminal penalties involving education and tobacco treatment. It required retailers to check photo identification to verify the age of anyone under 30. And it raised fines for retailers to $300 for a first offense, $600 for a second, and $1,000 for a third. And that last one's particularly important because this is a minimum or kind of a baseline for local communities. And so, just an example, if an entity is enforcing, is saying we're going to fine a retailer $75 for that first offense. Then technically they aren't complying with that state law. So these are just the bigger or more, I guess, more important changes, but that's not to say that there weren't other changes too that you can review in the Minnesota T21 FAQ documents. Again, that should be in your packet from the Public Health Law Center. And so just to summarize these changes or why they're so important is that basically, they're a better guarantee that Minnesota is holding retailers accountable versus punishing youth for an addiction that's been targeted to them by the tobacco industry. So a little bit more information on underage PUP penalties. PUP stands for purchase, use, and possession. Some examples of this would be administrative fines, criminal penalties, expulsion, suspension, and criminal sanctions. These were removed from state law because it has been shown that penalties are largely ineffective. They haven't been proven to reduce youth tobacco use. And I think the intent of putting them in originally was that it was thought that they would reduce youth tobacco use. So since this is not an effective strategy, they were taken out of state law. We also know that penalties can really add up and put youth into the system at a young age, which sets them up for failure. The original intent of this policy, especially on the local level, is to set youth and students up for success. So this was something that was really important to address. And it can make it more likely that there are interactions between law enforcement and people of color, which has become increasingly a concern within the last year or so. So what can communities do to enforce without penalties? I know this is a question that I get a lot. And what I think some people don't realize is that removing penalties really takes away from that extra responsibility of law enforcement. And instead it places that on the schools and the parents to address these concerns instead, which is something that we were already kind of moving towards already. So you can see that there's alternative to suspension programs, there's vaping curriculums, tobacco treatment programs. These are all listed there's a fairly comprehensive list of these in the Tobacco 21 law enforcement and Tobacco 21 schools fact sheets, if you want to see that. And then there's also a pup and smoke document in the packet as well, if you want some more just general information behind pup penalties in particular. So that was a large crash course in everything Tobacco 21. And now I just want to talk about, okay, so what's happened since Tobacco 21 in Minnesota? What's happened since then? Technically, local entities are not legally required to update their local tobacco ordinance or language, but most are choosing to update. And there's a couple of reasons. Number one is to prevent further confusion. So really, again, when I talk about the retailer fines as an example, if local authorities are trying to figure out what they need to do and are looking at your local language, it can be really confusing, especially if, say, everyone knows the law now, but 10 or 20 years from now, what is that going to look like? Number two is to recognize and distinguish commercial tobacco versus sacred or traditional tobacco. Three is that several new tobacco products have come out on the market, as you can see from the previous slides. It's not just cigarettes anymore, and I think even Minnesota had updated their definitions to expand beyond the federal level. So when you don't have comprehensive or updated language, it's easy to leave loopholes and can lead to issues with retailers down the line. It's a lot easier to have a comprehensive list of tobacco products, or you might get some people who are trying to take advantage of these gaps. And so along with updates, other communities have also been interested in other provisions that reduce youth tobacco use. So again, that goes along with sort of that menu of options, like I mentioned with Cook County, how they had that coupon restriction and placing retailers 1,000 feet from youth-oriented facilities. Those are just two examples of some other kind of minor options that you can choose to put in just based on what's best for your community. And so, in my experience with other locations, the city is generally interested in what the county has, simply for ease of enforcement and just kind of streamlining these processes. So yeah, obviously this isn't a huge or new initiative. Updating local tobacco language to state law minimums is really a simple housekeeping item that would benefit the city. And of course, for public health purposes, we know that poor enforcement can equal questionable outcomes to reduce youth access and use of tobacco products. So since Cook County, as well as the state and pretty much every level of government at this point, have adopted Tobacco 21, we would really appreciate the partnership of the council to consider adopting your own language for growing right to make it more comprehensive in the county, to eliminate confusion, and ensure that kids in the city are still protected on a local level from the harms of tobacco use. It is a fairly, again, simple process to update your language, and would definitely encourage you to do so. This is our specialty at the American Law Association, and we'd definitely be happy to assist you. We also partner with attorneys at the Public Health Law Center who can help draft language or provide more technical assistance at no cost. And again, can maybe even provide that menu of options that I touched on with Cook County to make an educated decision based on the needs of your community. So I just wanted to quick mention that there are a ton of tobacco treatment resources that people can use if they have an interest in putting. One of the big ones right now is Fit Partner, where there's services for Minnesota adults and teens 13 to 17 years old, and there's also an American Indian pit line. Here's some references. I'm more than happy to share this with you after these slides or any other references that you want to see. And here's my information if you have interest in contacting, and I'm going to try and stop sharing and take questions and kind of transition to that.
Counselors have any questions for Taylor?
I'm not sure if this is for Taylor, but I am wondering if the county's current ordinance is in alignment with the state. Because this is from 2019, and I'm just wondering if they are up to date with the state. Since the state came later and putting theirs in, I'm just wondering if they are.
Yeah, they are, pretty much everything is updated in their ordinance. The only thing that's off, to my understanding, is the
Yeah.
retailer fines. And we have talked to them about it. But what's really nice about them having gone earlier, kind of before all these other 221 changes, is that they really adopted all these other, comprehensive language, properties that are important beforehand. And so that's what's great, is that oftentimes when the state updates, it's a lot easier to roll that out versus having to kind of start from scratch, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But they are aware, yeah.
Okay.
Do we have an actual ordinance regarding? We do.
We do, we require the cigarette vendors to get licenses through the city.
Okay.
That, it's a pretty simple ordinance, there's not a lot of other language in there. And it is being updated along with the rest of the code, but
Mhm.
not to this extent.
Could it be?
When we talked about this, one of the options on the table was not having an ordinance
Hmm?
and allowing the county ordinance to control in the city as well. So
Ah,
we wouldn't be
I see.
involved in licensing. Their licensing rules that they've already set up could work here too.
That was my question when I saw this. It's like there's a state law and ordinance, there's a county ordinance. Do we now need to have a city ordinance because we're in the county, we're in the state?
If we have a city ordinance, then the county ordinance doesn't apply in our city limits. Obviously, since law enforcement is the same for city and county, if we were
Mhm.
going to have an ordinance that was more involved than the one that we have, I would think we would want it to be the county's ordinance anyway.
Right.
Just to make sure there's not any confusion about rules.
That was my question.
Okay. So we don't need to have one, we can just say that ours is theirs? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
That's not the case right now, though.
No, I recognize.
Okay.
Can I ask what any of the three guests feel about that methodology?
Before Hartley or Andrea says anything, let me turn the TV down or we're going to get blasted. Okay.
Good to go.
I'd really like to talk, but I have a screaming 4-year-old right behind me, so I'm waiting for backup. Hold on 1 second. And I'm really sorry.
It's okay.
Andrea, you can come live and visit us anytime now.
Right, well, that actually would be really great, but since Taylor is in Duluth, I figured we should be united in video. Okay, hold on. I would like it to be stated that nobody's talked to me for the past hour until right now.
Of course.
So, so just a clarifying question, Mike, are you talking about just the city ordinance would just say something like, we follow the county ordinance? Is that?
Oh, no, I'm saying we wouldn't have one at all.
Oh,
That's
so
my
the
remembrance of the
county would do all the
conversation.
licensing?
Yes, and all the rules in the city would be the county's rules, and we wouldn't speak about it at all.
Oh, well, that seems like an easy fix, right?
So, Mike, can I ask a clarifying question? So then, are you saying that if the city doesn't have X ordinance or something, if the county does, then the county
It's not a general rule, this is a specific circumstance.
Okay.
And
got
it's
it.
my recollection of a conversation 2 years ago, so it's probably worth having another conversation with Chris about it.
Okay.
Before we go too much further.
Okay, very good.
Hi, Chris.
Good evening, everybody. If
Hi.
I can just weigh in on that quickly.
Please.
So there are other and relatively larger cities in the state that don't have their own tobacco licensing ordinances, and they follow the county's ordinance. And the primary rationale behind that was that obviously they have a uniform ordinance within the county then. And so there's a decent rationale there. And in terms of what Mike was talking about, given the fact that the county is your law enforcement entity anyway,
Right.
it probably makes a fair amount of sense just for you to repeal your tobacco ordinance and rely on the counties. Or the county would implement it in the city.
Got it.
Can we do
Or,
that?
or at least that's the policy question.
Could we do that tonight, or does there actually have to be a resolution in front of us?
It would be an
to-
ordinance, and it would take 2 readings, and
Okay.
you know, if you want us to prepare one, we will and put it on a future agenda.
Do we need to
Now,
ask?
we have licenses that we've granted that are good until December 31st, and so it'd probably take a little bit of thought to just make sure that that repeal ordinance deals with that issue for those folks that are currently licensed.
So we could do it in the future. I mean, to me, it seems like we would want to repeal it effective either December 31st or January 1st
Yeah, something
to
like
make
that.
everything clean
Yeah.
and make it easy for people, law enforcement, us included, to understand.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing we'd want to do is talk to law enforcement, and talk to the county, and talk to our licensees, and make sure everybody is aware of what was going on,
Yeah.
and go
Okay.
through that, answer any questions.
I would like to follow that pathway to do that, and again, it doesn't have to be on the agenda in 2 weeks, I feel, because I feel that we could have those conversations and be ready to do the readings and have everything end on 12/31 and then move forward. It seems so much cleaner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
agreed.
Well, we'll start talking to folks, and we'll couch the conversation as the council's considering making this change. Here's what it would look like.
Okay,
And then at a future agenda, we'll have the repeal ordinance for you to consider.
okay.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Ladies, do you have any questions or anything else you need to leave us with?
Well, I would first say thank you, and second, add that the 3 of us, or maybe just 2 of us, are doing a training with the Cook County Sheriff's Office next week. We're doing 2 of them, and that will be mandatory for all deputies regarding T21 and what that means for law enforcement. So that will be a good update there too. And if you need any support from me or Hartley or Taylor, feel free to reach out.
Maybe just a quick conversation with the sheriff or Mr. Jorke then, to kind of tell them what direction we may be headed before next week, so they hear it from us first.
Yeah, we'll do that. You know, with Pat and his staff, it won't be as big of a change. They still have to enforce the
Right.
state rules in the city.
Right,
So
okay.
Right.
it'll be more of the administrative licensing part. And I think the biggest change will be with our actual licensees
Mhm.
having to look at the county rules for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else?
No.
Thank you very much
Yeah.
for your
Thank
time and your
you.
presentation tonight.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, the next item on the agenda, alley improvement feasibility study quote, resolution 2021-08. In your packet, there is an update from Mike regarding LHB's proposal. Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
There's not much more than what's included in your packet to speak of. I think that the plan LHB came up with to look at this as a good one. They understand the issues that we talked about at the last meeting, particularly the how do we do this without creating drainage problems or allowing them drainage problems to continue to exist in the property, and that it's very flat already, and there are drainage problems that we've heard about. And so that they would start with a survey, and then we would meet with the affected property owners and talk about the project and what we might do to make it work, and that they would put together a grading paving plan. And so that I asked for as simple as they could make it, and I think that is what we have here. If you want to move forward with this project, I would recommend that we set LHB loose on this. Now,
So-
the resolution that's included in your packet is if you want to continue to have special assessments be an option that you're considering, then this is the step that you would use to order the feasibility study.
All right.
Anyone have questions?
I think this is pretty straightforward. I mean, I thought,
Okay. And
especially with Mike's comments.
I would entertain a motion then, if anyone would like to, regarding Resolution 2021-08, declaring adequacy of petition for ordering preparation of report.
I'd make a motion.
Anton motion. Do I have a second?
I would second.
Michael with a second. Any other discussion? All right. If there being no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Great. I did mention when I talked to LHB that I was hoping that they could get this work done in July, since they're here with survey crews right now and working for MnDOT.
I was gonna say, and it's
So-
July?
We didn't, for sure say that was going to happen, but that's what I'm going to keep working with them on. Cool.
Thanks.
All right, next agenda item then is the Highway 61 project. This is change order. This is kind of a leftover and continuation from the last meeting, which I'm the one that probably had the biggest question about regarding the setup of the force account. In our packet, there is information here from Ed Welch, who is the MnDOT project manager, talking about the issue. Again, for me, my position was not about the money, the question, because it was not a large amount. I was trying to understand more or less how these issues are coming up and arising from, and I believe it was the language that was included last time. So, I'm still not sure this clarified it for me, but I don't know what other counselors think reading through this, if this was helpful to you. We decided to postpone it, get a little bit more information, and that is provided here. So, is there any discussion?
It's something that is probably worth clarifying, the difference between sanitary and storm that Ed's talking about is the difference between who's paying. So when they're making changes to storm sewer pipes, they're not asking us to be involved in that necessarily, which is probably why we hadn't heard anything about it. And so the problem at the last meeting was there was a reference to inaccurate locations in the plans,
Right.
and that didn't seem like an issue to us other than the one we knew about in front of the dental office. And so now Ed said, well, there was one more that they had to make some adjustments for. This is a typical sort of thing that happens. They're making field adjustments.
Yeah.
They can fix it without having to go back and re-engineer things, and they just pay the contractor for any extra work through his force account. He doesn't think it's very much yet. That's good news. I mean, we know what the risk is for inaccuracies. It's not going to be where the pipes are not in the right place on the plans. It's going to be there's rock that isn't in the plan. That's the real risk. So that isn't what Ed was talking about, but I still think that's something that we should be aware of that could come up.
So some of this, is it that our plans are just old and outdated, hard to read?
I can't explain why there would be an inaccuracy in a plan. We probably surveyed these pipes 4 to 5 times in the past 2 years. And, you know, we hired engineers that came into the field and verified the depth in manholes. And so to see where those conflicts come up is hard to explain.
I guess that more or less was my question, and maybe it can't be determined, but I wanted to know, is it our issue? Is it engineer's issue? So,
Eventually, it kind of becomes our issue, right?
Yeah.
well, eventually it
Right.
becomes our issue, but
Right.
if somebody's making an error in the field,
Right.
then is it a taxpayer issue, our issue, or is it their issue? That was really my question.
I think that's, I mean, that going back to the previous conversation about the alley, I mean, that's the, like, the biggest fear I have in that of, like, you know, as it is how it's been for however long, right? As soon as there's a change made, then, I mean, ultimately the onus is on the city of Grand Marais, even though we're not just making it up, we're hiring an engineer to deal with it and making sure that the drainage goes right and things, but, you know, it's, again, there's a majority of stakeholders involved asking for this to happen, but those stakeholders might not always be in place, or they might, you know, so that's, yeah, I don't know, I mean, that's, I think, what my issue is with this, is how there's always gonna be issues and things that come up, I guess, but it seems a little bit with the amount of legwork that went into it, like how those things, you know, pop up. So, I don't know.
So we do not have the change order before us in our packets tonight. Are we looking for a motion to pass that?
I know they'd appreciate it. I don't think that the time was of the essence on the 18 as much as it was on the 15 that you did approve last time. So my oversight for not putting it in the packet. So I would leave it up to your comfort level if you want to consider approving it, or if you'd rather see it in person in your next packet.
So is it change order 2021-18? Is that correct? I want to have the right information.
I don't know what they numbered it. I'll take a look from our last packet.
I was going to say.
Is the issue, you went back to just clarifying what you said, Mike, is the issue in the stormwater is within the scope of MnDOT's work, or work on the project, or scope of the project, but the replacement of the sanitary sewer is what we're having them do while they're doing the other, so that's how it falls on us, right?
That, yeah, and my bringing it up was trying to explain why we would not have had an awareness of there being inaccuracies.
Storm.
Because they just dealt with it with the storm pipe instead
Gotcha.
of the sanitary pipe.
Gotcha.
Their numbering is 0018.
Okay.
And again, it was, the issue description is due to inaccuracies of sanitary sewer locations shown on the plan compared to what has been encountered during excavation. The contractor will need to make field revisions to structures and size lengths of pipe runs. This miscellaneous extra work will be handled by force account to track necessary field revisions. So I guess Ed's point is technically that's accurate, and even though that didn't seem like what was causing it from our understanding.
Okay. All right. Would anyone like to consider and make a motion to approve change order 0018?
Can I just ask a question, Mike? Is it ever a thing to, I don't know, recoup those dollars from whoever did the original assessment and said like, well, here's where it is?
Survey?
Survey, thank you.
Is it ever a thing? Sure.
Okay.
Is it
Is it common?
No.
No, okay.
And it's not something that we're suggesting is the
Okay.
issue right now.
All right.
It's when the change order goes from 0018 to change order 1008. We have to start questioning that path, maybe.
We better be questioning before we're up to 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect there to be issues like this in any project of any size. That
Sure.
you can do your best to try and understand what's underground, but until you dig it up, you don't really know.
Okay. So this doesn't seem out of the ordinary, just in your opinion?
No, but that's not to say I'm happy about it. We've shared our
Right.
frustrations with LHB
Okay.
about some of these conflicts that we thought shouldn't have happened. But that doesn't mean that there's some sort of cause of action that we're recommending.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, I mean, the work's been done,
It's already been done.
so, I mean, I think that we should pay the contractor.
Yeah.
Well, and we already did.
Right.
Right. Well, yeah. This is force account, meaning this number is a made-up number.
Right.
You're not approving 5,000, you're approving the plan, which is we're gonna use this force account to deal with these changes in the field.
Yeah,
I'd make a motion to approve change order 0018.
I would second that.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Well, we'll keep you up to speed on how that is carried out.
Thank you for following up on that for me.
Sure thing.
Next on our agenda is the Coast Guard Station. At the last meeting, Anton, I believe you probably brought it up and discussed it a little bit more, but we agreed to set aside a little bit of time at this meeting to talk about the fact that the Coast Guard Station will be closing at the end of this season permanently. We had talked about, as a council, individually sending letters, and as a council potentially drafting a letter from us to send. So I don't know if, Anton, if you have more information. I know you've been having more discussions, maybe.
Yeah, and I haven't followed up with, I haven't done my letter. It's the 23rd, right? Is when we have to have stuff in by.
I thought it was, what was the date? Is it July 23rd? I thought it was sometime in August, but I could be wrong. Where did I think that I read that?
WTIP did a story about it, I
They
thought.
did a story about it. Then there's been some letters sent. Well, I got a letter anyway, sent
Oh, did you?
from out of town people
Okay.
about it. But I don't remember when the cutoff response was or cutoff.
And I don't know what I mean, we're not all gonna sit here and compose a letter, I guess, but I don't know if, to me, it seems like it, I don't know, I mean, if we actually have support of it and it's worth doing, I think it would be worth, bringing up the points that we think that it's not a good decision, if that's how we feel, and get that out there instead of a letter written from us personally on, having it on city letterhead and, and whether it will do anything or not.
Well, I know we did I received the email, I believe you did. I don't know if others received an email several weeks ago from a former Coast
Oh,
Guard
yeah.
employee, do I wanna call him? Guardsman,
Correct.
who actually served here at the station.
Yep, married a local girl. Yeah.
Offering any assistance to us if he could, but I don't know that he knows anything more than we do,
I think the
how to
biggest,
make a change.
yeah, and I'm not sure, I think it's more so like the information that's out, it seems like it's not accurate based on anecdotal and firsthand accounts. I mean, I think the newspaper said there was 2 calls in however many years. And we saw when we did just getting information from Sheriff Eliason or from the Sheriff's Department, there was, I think it was 22, but it was actually only 21 because one of them was, or something within that, it was in the 20s with one accidental call where they shouldn't have been paged. And that was only in 2 years, and that was you know, when that data was out was before or right after they showed up. You know, it didn't include this year yet, right? So it was really 2 solid seasons. So, I mean, that's 10 to 11 calls per year, which, right? I mean, maybe that's not a lot, but for a town of 1,300 people, I mean,
Well,
A short season.
short
it's a
season.
short season, and I think to myself, obviously, you all know, we're big on the lake. I took my first trip Sunday in our smaller boat because it was dead calm lake.
Did you
3
get
of
boarded?
us went out to Fisherman's Reef. And had a blast and came back. And I think at the time that we spend on the lake, and things happen and can turn very quickly. And if there's no one here in July,
Yeah.
in September, we typically will fish till the end of September if the lake allows us to do that, because the season goes into, is it the first or the second weekend of October? If something happens, a boat is either got to come from Duluth, and if I'm out there in rough seas and something's going wrong, somebody coming from Duluth, by the time you pluck me out in the end of September,
No, it's too late.
you're just saving me for my parents to say goodbye to. You know, the other thought is Houghton, Michigan, or wherever the
No,
helicopter comes from. And
Traverse City is this.
Traverse
helicopter, I
City.
think.
Traverse City,
So I just think
6 hours.
I'm glad that we
For a
don't
helicopter.
use them,
Right.
but in the one instance or 2 or 5 that we could, I mean,
Yeah.
it's an important thing. So I don't know if we, I know Jay said he would be interested in drafting a letter. I don't know how much time Jay has, you know, or if it's something that, if we want to, Patrick's our communications manager. I don't know if we work together with him to try to figure out what our thoughts would be, and
The deadline is August 3rd.
August 3rd.
So we could draft a letter for you to look at your next meeting.
Does anybody, I mean, I'm sure Patrick's capable as well, but if there's particular points or, you know, things that we want to bring up, is there maybe if we set some sort of time frame to be able to get that to Patrick? You know, if we wanted anything to be included in that?
Well, I think your points on the calls that the sheriff's department recorded needs to be part of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Has there been any communication with our state representatives about this issue?
I have not had any.
I haven't. I mean, I just
But
think
they-
maybe a phone call to kind of see.
With the Coast Guard, that would be.
It's
Yeah,
federal.
You're talking about our senator.
Our senator, yeah, our,
Yeah.
yeah.
Senator and
You know,
representative.
representative.
Yeah.
We can contact those folks
Huh?
as well. We could just copy them on the letter.
There you
Yeah,
She should put her on a canoe for a while and see if she needed any
Oh.
help, and then we would have phone
Well,
call.
if you don't reach out to us, we're gonna reach out to you at least, Anton, who you've clearly done some thinking about this, and I'd like to help, a little bit of help with that.
Okay.
I think the issues that seem like have been a part of the conversation are, one, we don't want you to go.
Right.
We
Right.
should just start with that.
Yeah.
And then, we have concerns about the data you're relying on. Here's what we think is the real story. And we have concerns about your plans for how you're gonna conduct rescues, or
Right.
how anyone is gonna conduct
Response
rescues
time.
in
right.
the community if you're not here. And I mean, that seems like the simple case to make.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean-
I know we have search and rescue. I can think of an incident, how many years has it been for Todd, that
Mhm.
Harley
Harley did.
put himself at risk in order to go try and save 2 men,
Mhm.
which ended up to be of no avail. But I just don't feel that I just don't feel we have any other good, solid resources other than the Coast Guard to be here. My other thought is, could we, I know WTAP shared, but could we put it on our Facebook page as to if people are interested in writing letters, here's where to send them to and the deadline? Since we have a bit of a social media presence, even maybe on our website, just for a short time, and have that information out there.
Definitely.
I would appreciate that.
I mean, I think that a big part of, I think I might have said this at the last meeting too, but I think like a big part of like the presence isn't just like when like there's a crisis, but it's the idea of like, you know, if you're going fishing, you better make sure your flares are up to date.
Right.
Right.
All your stuff is, because there's a real good chance, I don't go out on the lake that often, but I can think of 3 times in as many years that I've been boarded, like every time I go out there, it's like, all right, you know?
Yep.
And it's, so that, right, I mean, it's, I don't know, maybe they would just say, well, that's a real expensive way to, but that is also like making, so maybe the calls aren't as bad, because people then know that they have the things that they need to have.
Right.
Right, I mean, that's personal
Yeah.
responsibility, but it also is like, if you're gonna get a ticket or a warning, or, you know, there's some financial penalty to that, like that presence, I think, to me, is.
Well, and the security of it. I know we got boarded. I don't pay attention to those things, right? I want to go set my downriggers down and catch my fish, but that's kind of my husband's job. But having them come on and checking all the boxes, going, oh, okay, yay. And they've always been pleasant. They're willing to educate you, talk to you through things, so.
Yeah.
you know. I don't know, yeah, okay, well, I think it would be good. I do think that if we get more response too, because even if you got 5 more people from town to write letters, if they got stuff to the right spot, and I do think reaching out also to, I
Well,
can try and do some reaching
I will
out
get-
to.
I'll try.
I will get the correct information as well. Did you look it up? Where did you find that in the WTIP story? I will get the information because I think I'm going to put it on my Facebook page as well, just personally, because it, like I said, it means something to me. I'm out there using it a lot in the summer and fall, and my family. So
Where to send the letters, is that on WTIP or is that on our website?
It's on WTIP as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we can share that.
thank you very much for your cooperation, guys. Appreciate your time and efforts. All right, that moves us to council and staff reports. Michael? Nothing?
I don't have anything. I have ARDC tomorrow, so.
Okay,
Move right on.
great.
Good for you.
Anton?
We have a meeting a special meeting called for the EDA next Tuesday at 4 to announce and approve the new director for the EDA. So at our next meeting, we'll be able to talk about that more,
Okay,
which is exciting.
okay.
To my earlier conversations during the open forum about,
Oh, right.
I'm gonna pull that up here.
The Jake Breakers.
Yeah, the noise ordinance. So my recollection is when this was brought up in the past, when people have called to complain, the county attorney took a look at the language in our ordinance and said that if they're using a Jake brake, engine braking for safety, technically that's the out, like they can do that because it's a safety thing. So if I look at our ordinance, for one, the sorry, I'm just gonna pull up what I came in and talked to Mike to see, like, can I get just a copy so I don't have to try and find it on the site, like, of what our noise ordinance is. So I think it should be, I mean, there's a noise is a public nuisance as it's in its own, which if you read through that is like exactly what is happening, but there's a specific section within ours that talks about motor vehicles. And I'll just read the first section of it because the second section, well, there's 2 sections in our motor vehicle ordinance or our noise ordinance relating to motor vehicles, which to me seems like it actually should be finable, or at least you could talk to them about it and be like, hey, you can't do this. I mean, if we have signs posted, we only have one left, I think, on the east entrance into town that says there's a vehicle noise ordinance enforced, but it's clearly not. So the first one says that generally it shall be a violation of this section to use any automobile, truck, motorcycle, or other vehicle which causes or would be likely to cause significant discomfort or annoyance to a reasonable person of ordinary sensitivities present in the area due to loud, disturbing, or excessive noise. It goes on to the next one, talks about like playing loud music in your car. The next one talks about horns, like you can't just go around honking your horn. And then the last part of that section, according with vehicles, is application of the MPCA rules. No person shall operate a motor vehicle in the city in violation of the motor vehicle noise limits of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Rules, section 7030.100, then it says through 703.1600, but that doesn't actually exist. When I looked up MPCA rule, it actually stops at 1060, so I think there's a typo in our, Chris will probably correct me if you wanted to look into it, but I don't think that that section goes to 7030.1600, it only goes to 7030.1060. Anyway, so that was fun. I dug into that. And if you look into that, there's no mention in our ordinance at all, like that. With horns, it says, like, if it's a safety thing, like you have to honk your horn because you're going to hit somebody or whatever, like you can do it. But it doesn't say anything in the noise section as far as like operating a vehicle that you can do that as safety. And I think, as I brought up at the last meeting, of all the little towns that we went through that have noise ordinances in, coming down as 7% grade, like somehow other places they're able to do it without, they're able to drive trucks, loaded trucks without, doing this. And the belly dumpers are bad, but it's construction season. But like the trucks hauling out of Headstroms, which leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you can hear them from Pincushion all the way down. And it's...
Guess what? I'm hearing them at my house at 5:30 a.m.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I know who it is. But I lay in bed, and because the dog gets me up early, I'm awake. But I've been hearing them, and I'm thinking to myself, is that what I'm really hearing at 5 in the morning? Because one trucker usually didn't come through till 6, but now there's something else.
So the MPCA section that we list as item 4 in our ordinance gives noise limits for vehicles. It gives prohibitions. It talks through that, and I have that I sent to both Pat and the person that sent me. I found the sections in the MPCA code that we're referencing in our ordinance.
Okay.
And so, like, for one of them, it's really interesting. There's a actual graph that talks about sound levels in decibels and distance in feet from the center line of travel. So they have it based on over 35 miles an hour or under 35 miles an hour. So if you're talking coming down 61, the hill, coming, eastbound into town, that's a 40. Coming down the Gunflint, that's 40. So it's above that 35. So those for vehicles over 10,000 pounds, which is what we're hearing it from, right? For the most part. There's always a few loud pickup trucks, and that's probably a thing too that should be enforced, right? But that's not they're not out at 4 o'clock in the morning every day. The limits are pretty crazy. Like, distance from the center line of travel, if you're 2 feet from the center lane of travel on the Gunflint Trail, like 94 decibels is the limit. And like right now, I'm talking at like 57 decibels because I put a decibel meter from OSHA on my phone so that I could hear how loud. And so where the people that we're hearing it from, their house is 100 plus feet off the road, and standing there, decibel levels are like 110. So it's like way over. So it's like, it just can't be, I don't know. I don't know what, Pat's sheriff of license response has been like, the county attorney doesn't think it's a big deal. Basically, the reading is like, they have to do it for safety. Right? Which to me then, if you're doing it for safety, means you should then be like, you're doing it for safety because you don't want to be going over 40 miles an hour. But if you're going 55 down the road, just you know, like, which one is it? You can't, you know what I mean? Like, do you get a pass on speeding then too, because you're a big truck?
No,
So-
and if,
It's a
I'm
louder
sorry.
truck,
If
louder
you're-
than other trucks.
If you're a good driver, you know how to control those things.
So I mean, because then the conversation to me was like, well, why don't you guys change the ordinance so it's enforceable? And it's like, well, I don't think we have to change our ordinance, because as it's written, it's clear that it's a violation. As far, I mean, Chris is like, you're an idiot. I mean,
I don't see him saying that.
I mean, I don't know. I'm a carpenter,
doesn't have
but like, me reading that, to me,
Don't
seems like,
enforce it.
Chris's
but-
microphone won't work.
It's
I'm
rusty.
cutting out here a little bit.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it. I mean, unless we specifically added something saying engine braking is not allowed. I mean, that would be the simplest thing to do.
Why not?
Some towns have signs up that say
Engine
no
braking.
engine braking.
Because noise, vehicle noise ordinance is, it's like tied up in the vagaries in the county attorney's mind of like, well, that's a safety device. So, I don't know. I mean, if it's as simple as saying we're gonna add no engine braking, because I just don't, I mean, I don't know, I know this is gonna be done like this summer, right? But what we have trucks.
But
I
it's
mean,
not just them.
Yeah, it's not just those guys.
Where does our imaginary line, city limits line start on the Gunflint Trail? Above the water tower, below
It'd be
the
above
water
the
tower?
water
Water tower.
Yeah.
So,
Zip line.
Right about at the driveway of the zip line.
okay. So we actually could put signs up there, which gives them time before, I mean,
We gotta go around the corner.
But it's not a sign issue. I mean, we always talk about the sign issue, but if no one's going to enforce it anyway,
Right.
it's not like they don't know about it, particularly the truck driver that you're talking about.
Right.
So,
well, actually, at that hour of the morning, it's a different one, I believe. So,
Well, but I mean, I mean, I mean, I think everybody that's complained about it, like, has called law enforcement, law enforcement's talked to them, and then, like, there's been calls made to Headstroms to be like, and they're like, well, they don't really work for us, they're subcontractors,
Right.
and it's like, yep, absolutely, but, you know, I don't know, I hire subcontractors, and I can choose who I hire. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to, I mean, it seems like,
one is due to retire, another one isn't.
well, I'm not trying to pick, I mean, that's the thing, is I'm not trying to pick on anybody, it's like,
I know it.
but if we're gonna have this
Yeah.
rule,
Yep,
then like, let's enforce the rule. Otherwise, like, what the hell's the point of having, like, let's just
Well-
not let kids play like loud rap music in their cars and keep our vehicle ordinance at that. You know, I mean, because I've gotten pulled over with my sister-in-law on Christmas Eve in her Honda Accord driving from the liquor store back to my house, like, because of her muffler was leaking. Like, we got pulled over for that. It's like, wait a minute, like, so we can get pulled over for like a loud muffler in a Honda Accord, which is, you know,
Not
annoying.
Quieter
But,
than a Harley.
but it's not a consistent thing, 5 to 100 times a day, driving right by the front door of the law enforcement center. I've called them and said, in 6 minutes, I can hear them. If you just step outside the door, they're gonna be going right past you.
flag them down and give them their ticket,
But they
warning of
don't,
their
they're
ticket.
like, oh, we can't really do anything about it. Anyway,
You know,
so I don't know what we do about it. Chris, do you know what we do about it? We're looking to you.
Any ideas?
Well, I mean, I think you've kind of laid out the issues pretty well. You know, this is a law enforcement issue.
Yes.
You know, why the heck aren't they ticketing? I mean, I get it that I get it that this is not a priority issue for the county attorney and that they have bigger fish to fry. I get that.
Well, and that's, yeah, and I think every person that's ever called is like, look, if this is not an emergency issue, we're not calling 911, but it's like, right? It's just
Yeah.
the lack of any.
Can you do something about it?
It's revenue for them.
Well, and you know, if you have what sounds to me like the same people doing the same stuff all the time, just ticket them once. That might send the message. I just,
Right.
I don't understand why they wouldn't do it. And the issue about, well, it's a safety issue. Oh, come on. I mean, if you've got the same truck driver that's doing the same thing all the time, there's nothing to do with safety. That's just a guy that doesn't know how to drive.
Well, they're speeding and now they have to figure out a way to slow
Yeah.
themselves down. That's what it is, period.
Yeah.
Sounds cool too.
It's really loud. Goes by my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, if
Well,
I'm
and-
hearing them in town at 5 in the morning,
Well, and even with, I mean, even for the folks where the detours running up 8th right in front of Craig's
Yeah.
house with all this stuff.
It's crazy.
I mean,
oh, they're on every street.
I
Yeah.
imagine.
They
Oh.
cross our streets
Come down our
8:30
street,
at
just-
night.
God knows why.
Yeah.
It's
How do
almost
they even
done.
get to your street?
I know, it's insane. I can't
It's
even.
been discovered.
Yeah.
Exploring.
I mean, it does seem like we keep circling around to enforcement. I know that's like on our list of like, hey, we should
Well,
really
I
do
talked to
something
Pat.
about this.
I,
just says-
I really think.
Well, I mean, it was this afternoon when I responded with, after digging through all that stuff
Right.
and trying to find like the right sections, I responded, because there had been, the person that finally forwarded it to me was all the back and forth. And it was like 8 or 9 exchanges. And Pat was not super nice. And he's like, look, I live up on Ball Club and Devil Track Road. Like, I hear it too. It's annoying. But it's like, well, I don't know if there's a county ordinance for noise. And I don't care because I'm not a county commissioner. But I am a city councilor. And there is a ordinance in the city of Grand Marais.
Yep.
So like,
And we pay to have somebody.
right.
Enforce it.
Well,
You know, if the sheriff or the county attorney, if they have some specific language or, you know, concerns that they have about the ordinance, and again, I can't say that I've even reviewed this ordinance in my time as city attorney, but, you know, if they had some specific language or some issue that they've identified that, hey, this is a problem, fine, okay, we'll change it. I mean, I think it's a simple matter of us, you know, changing the ordinance, but based on what Anton described, I mean, it seems like that, in terms of what Anton described, that's basically what I've seen in other ordinances like that. So, you know, again, if they have something specific and that's why they really don't think they can enforce this, it'd be great to know that, and we can tweak our ordinance.
I think we need to have a conversation with him. And I guess it's developing relationships, right? For us to sit down with Pat and say, hey, here's, you know, my thing is in the wintertime that we aren't moving cars for
Right.
plowing. We did all the work. We put it in place and we're not ticketing. I'm not saying you gotta take an officer and go spend the morning ticketing every single car, right? But if you start to develop a pattern
Right.
where people are getting tickets, people are getting towed,
Or there's a car that's just been plowed in all winter long and nothing has happened to it.
And-
It's like, how is this car still
Right.
sitting here?
and people start talking, usually through social media and complaining, but it now gets out there, right, that we're enforcing, because I find more and more often, that's what people are asking us for help with, right? We had 2 people come and sit in front of us tonight going, we need help before something, I don't think we can fix everything, but we certainly can help,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that's what people are coming to us and saying is, hey, we need some help. The trailer issue, the safety issue, streets, the parking issues, the noise issues. I mean, those are all things that, and yeah, they're not critical tomorrow, but
But they are about it.
small changes over time make a big difference. I'm a firm believer in that.
But they do.
And we need to develop our relationship and understand, you know,
But it is about our quality of life. I mean, that's what we're really talking about. Those small things added up together. I mean, that
right,
is it.
right.
I mean, I can't have a rooster in town because it's gonna wake up the neighbors when the sun comes up. You know, but
But you
why?
can have a lumber truck.
Right? I mean, I imagine there'd be phone calls about that if I decided to get a rooster in, right?
Could be.
So, I mean, are
Where's
they
my
not
fur
gonna
hair?
enforce that either? I don't know.
No, probably not.
We've probably dealt with this enough for the evening.
What?
I think the next step is we need a few more people in the room.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's developing that relationship and understanding and working forward.
And I mean, I'll clarify again too, like, I mean, I don't think that he was being dismissive. I just felt like that Pat didn't seem like he could do anything about it. But I think like maybe, hopefully, clarification that, okay, why can't you? If so, we'll change it. And if not, he was nice and responded to the emails and stuff that this person sent. But
Right.
still, there seems to be a disconnect somewhere. Anyway,
Anything else?
Sorry.
It's okay, don't be.
I had to get it out there, though.
It's out there.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, Craig?
Yes, I had a POC meeting on the 7th. And got a report from Tom Nelson. There's some sewer lining opportunity that we're doing that's outside of the state construction zone on 2nd Avenue West and in the alley between 1st and Broadway and on 3rd Avenue East. And it's just an opportunity to line the sewer pipes rather than dig them up and remove them. And so we approved that, about approximately 1,500 feet of sewer main, which I think will be cheaper for us to do, and it seems like a pretty good system that they use.
You ever seen that? You ever seen like videos of how they do that? It's incredible.
It really is.
It's the craziest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like.
Forms another pipe inside the
Yeah,
pipe.
it's wild.
Huh.
YouTube, you're gonna fall into a black hole.
There we
on
go.
YouTube.
You're gonna look up sewer pipe.
We'll have
lining.
videos and doing it to our pipes.
I've been
Oh, really?
busy looking
Yeah.
up,
Because I'm really bored.
I've been looking up fishing boats lately since
Oh, there you
Sunday.
The other issue, or not issue, but the other thing we talked about was the EV charging stations were transferred from Simca over to the city because they are completely done and up and running.
Great.
The 2 over here and 1 or 2 in the rec park? 1?
One.
A one,
1.
but it's got two.
Has,
you
yeah,
can do
right,
two
right,
cars
right,
to it.
right. That has a slower charger. We have a fast charger and a slower charger here. So that was turned over from Simca to the city of Grand Marais.
When the highway is complete, will there be signs, will there be some sort of signage directing people, or,
The internet.
okay,
Yeah, people.
They're already
know
coming.
where they find them.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next question is, there will be signs
For
in
parking.
the parking area that says this is for EV
Yep.
only.
Only?
Signs have been ordered.
Does
but I
that
don't
work
know-
like boat trailers only?
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we hope it
Mhm.
works better than that. And then we did have a park board meeting. That must have been yesterday, I believe. Yes, it was.
Poor Craig.
Yeah, I'm just.
Thanks, Craig.
For me to remember this is, I just grabbed the stuff and brought it with me because it's the only way I could remember it. At this point, anyway. Golf report was pretty favorable. We're doing quite well at the golf course. There is some concern about water. The ponds we pump out of are getting kind of low.
Yeah.
There's been some discussion with maybe tanking in water and filling up the pond, but we have to get that vehicle close enough to the pond to fill it up. They're working on some kind of thing there. Hopefully we get some rain so we don't keep
None
going down that
forecasted.
path. But right now, it's not looking too good.
And
For the
high
next
of
week anyway.
90s
Yeah.
by Monday.
That pond holds a lot of tanks of water.
Yeah, well, yeah. At least keep the greens up is about.
Yeah.
And they did put in a new irrigation system that got finished, so that might help too. What else? Let's see. We did have a conversation on the landing. I think that's coming before the city, I would think.
You mean the community connection?
The community connection,
Oh, okay.
the landing? Is that coming before the city now, after the park board?
Not,
Or,
yeah, well,
there was a
we'll
little
be-
confusion on my part about how this is all going on, because I kind of thought this is all cut and dried, only to find out that it's not really kind of cut and dried, as far as the art being used within the system of that landing, and the budget, of course, has gone up since what we kind of had estimated it at. So we, as the park board, they decided to stick with a $250,000 budget to develop that, which may include some art or may not include the art. But there's some concern about what art is going to be used for that right now.
I thought we decided on that.
Well, we haven't.
Oh.
The park board meeting is available for your viewing pleasure if you'd
Yeah.
like to witness their discussion. And also, what he's talking about coming before the council is what the park board looked at, which is CJ's updated concept
Yeah.
that is then going to be moving to full design work after it's been approved by the park board, which they,
Right.
so he.
We didn't really, well, I guess we kind of approved design. He gave us
Yeah.
3 options, and they vary from 300 and some thousand down to 190,000 to 217.
Yeah.
And we kind of threw a $250,000 budget out there to see what we can do with option, whatever that number 1 was, I think.
Yeah, and then CJ's idea with those options was to try and do exactly what was the original concept, and then also what can we do to make that price lower and still have the functionality and features that were in the existing concept. And then what can we even do to strip out some of that to get the price even lower.
Right.
So that's what the park board had a chance to look at.
Yeah. And then, of course, we talked about the Fisherman's Picnic, that was approved, and that came here now, so. Oh, we got 3 new golf carts tomorrow. That's what I think.
Today, I think.
Today or tomorrow? Today.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So we got 3 new golf carts up at the golf course, so, you know, that's always kind of nice. People like to,
It is nice, because
it's adding,
Push them uphill.
they can do burnouts on dry grass
Fred
now.
Flintstone.
Start a fire. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, or there won't be any new carts again.
That's all I have. Thank you.
No more cards.
Say, I do not have anything because planning and zoning did not meet last week, so I'm in the clear. So that leaves Mike, Patrick, Kim.
We'll see you for a lengthy day in 2 weeks.
Right, July 28th, everyone remembers we have work session starting at 9,
9.
correct?
Yep.
Breaking for lunch and then back, is that what we talked about?
We'll bring lunch.
Oh, awesome.
So I'll reach out to you guys to coordinate.
July, when?
July 28th, that Wednesday.
Okay.
We'll have our work session that day and then council that night. Woo-hoo. We get some together time.
Just back in time.
If there is nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
So moved. We are adjourned. Thank you, Chris.